What's up, man? This is a recording from the MenProvement Podcast. To see all podcasts, go to MenProvement.com, the number one self-improvement resource strictly for men. And while you're there, get a copy of your free ebook, How to Triple Your Testosterone Naturally. See the links below for more information and enjoy.
Ready to take your life to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Get all the information you need to be better, improve everything, and live life like a pro. This is the MenProvement Podcast with Sean Russell.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the MenProvement Podcast, brought to you by MenProvement.com, the number one self-improvement resource strictly for men. And this is the podcast where we aim to build our listeners into the ultimate man. And I'm doing it while trying to build myself into the ultimate man. So everything that I'm learning along the way, you guys are learning, and it's going to be a great time. Today, I have an awesome show. I've got Vanessa Van Edwards from scienceofpeople.com, and what she does is she has spent her life studying the science behind people, and that's why her site's called scienceofpeople.com. And today I'm going to pick her brain about the science of attraction and the science of conversations and meeting someone and the science of what women want to see in a man, because we all know that there's those guys that women see and there's just something about him, but it's not really that there's just something about him. He's just practicing the correct body language cues. He's doing things subconsciously with his nonverbal communication that is driving these women wild. And if you're not doing them, then you're not driving these women wild. And you're going to learn today some incredible things about nonverbal communication, all in an effort to build you into the ultimate ladies' man. And that's what I'm getting at. I'm really trying to formulate a system of meeting women where you master all these scientific things that you can master, the body language, the subconscious cues, the attraction cues, and you ingrain them in you so deeply that they become subconscious. Then you work on your mindsets when it comes to attracting women and not needing them, and just giving freely and being the kind of guy that women gravitate towards, like we talked about in the episode with John Cooper. And then we're going to learn that pickup artist stuff, like the touching and the seduction and the routines that can actually have an effect. And all together, we're going to combine them to make you an automatic, non-needy ladies' man, a machine. And that's my goal. And I know that we're jumping around. We're all scattered in the podcast between episodes with getting girls, because there's a lot of niches when it comes to self-improvement for men, and not all our listeners are looking to get girls. I know probably a big percentage of you guys are looking to meet women, but there's a lot of guys out here that are married and they're just looking to better themselves, whether it be increase your IQ, get better sleep, or get in better shape. So if you want a more structured way to learn how to become this ultimate ladies' man that has mastered all the science, that has mastered the mindsets and doesn't need women and attracts them naturally and knows all the seduction tips, then the best way to do that is to join the MenProvement Academy, because one of our 12 modules is going to be becoming the ultimate ladies' man. And I'm going to build you step by step from the basics, from the very beginning, from a blank slate. I'm going to instill in the kind of stuff we talk about today. I'm going to instill the science and daily exercises you can do. Then I'm going to instill the mindsets that we talk about with John Cooper. We're going to talk about things to do during conversations. And over the course of a few months, through this one module of the MenProvement Academy, you are going to be built into the ultimate ladies' man. And I'm excited. And you know how I love to do stuff in a step-by-step fashion, because that's just how I roll and that's what I like to do. And it's going to be step by step. Lesson 1, this. Lesson 2, this. Lesson 3, this. And this is just one of 12 things. When this academy is done in a year and it's building men from absolute to just bosses that are walking around crushing it, it's going to be $1,000 to be a part of it. But you guys are incredibly lucky to be listening to this podcast before the academy has even launched, because you're going to get in for $50 if you sign up to the list at menprovement.com/academy. And you have about a few more weeks to sign up, and we're closing it off after we hit a certain amount of guys. We've already got a few hundred guys signed up, so don't wait. And As soon as this list is full, then the launch price is going to triple, and it's going to be at least $150 when the program actually launches in 5 weeks. So don't wait on this. If you really want to be built into the ultimate man and you love these podcasts, then you are going to absolutely love the MenProvement Academy, because we are going to build you into the ultimate man. I'm really excited about it, and I'm really excited about today's show. So let's jump into it. We're going to learn all about the science of people, what makes guys irresistible to women before they even open their mouth, besides looks, because surprisingly, it's not all about that, and how you can master your nonverbal communication to become a seduction master. All right, what's up, guys? I'm here today with Vanessa Van Edwards of scienceofpeople.com. What's up, Vanessa? How are you?
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of you and what you do, because I'm totally fascinated by the art and the science of interactions and conversing and body language, and you have become an absolute expert in this. So why don't you just dive into how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I did it purely out of necessity. I'm a recovering awkward person. So I have just always struggled with my people skills, especially my presence. And this became painfully obvious when I got into college, and I realized that I could know the material perfectly. I could get A's on tests, but if I didn't know how to interact with other students in group work, if I didn't know how to pitch in front of the class really well in an interview, I was not going to have any success. And that a mentor very nicely told me that. So I realized that I had to work on my soft skills, my body language, my people skills, reading other people's nonverbal communication, and that's exactly where my journey started. Was just myself.
That's really cool, and you've done an incredible job at building this empire and teaching people how to understand the science of all this stuff. So I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, there was sort of a tipping point where I was learning it for myself, and I met someone who didn't even remember meeting me the year before. And that moment where I realized that nonverbal was so powerful that it could actually make you seem like a different person. And that was terrifying, but also exciting, the same event, if you used your powers for good and not evil. And so that's when I decided to start sharing it. People were asking me, how did you learn it? And I was like, 8 different books, 4 different courses, and they were like, is there one place where I can learn it? And I was like, no, there isn't. I should make one place. And so that's when I started the professional side. And it's just my pleasure to help people, because it's helped me a lot as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. So how much of our communication is actually nonverbal? Like, what's the science behind this?
Yeah. So when you're looking at nonverbal communication, at a minimum, 60% of our communication is nonverbal. And when I say nonverbal, I mean body language, facial expressions, and voice tone. About 40% of our communication is the words we use. And by the way, 60% is the absolute minimum. Some studies say it's up to 93%. So depending on the situation you're in, 60 is the safest, lowest bet. The problem is we put usually 90 to 100% of our energy on the words, on the verbal. Mm-hmm. We don't really know how to up our nonverbal to show up with 100% of our ability.
Yeah, it's funny how so much of our percentage is nonverbal, yet what we consciously focus on is pretty much all verbal, and that really doesn't even make a difference in the end. It's just so ironic from a human standpoint.
Yeah, and it's hard because thin slicing. So thin slicing is a term that was come up and figured out by Nalini Ambady at Tufts University. And she basically found that when you first meet someone, the brain is incredibly efficient. So what happens is the brain takes this snapshot of someone and forms a rule in their head about that person. Literally like a rule in your head. And the brain does this because it's more efficient to be able to take a snap judgment of someone and then focus on the content. The problem is that snap judgment is the foundation for your entire interaction. So no matter what words you use, they sort of become corollaries or exceptions to the rule that they made when they first met you. And that first impression happens purely non-verbally. It happens in the first about 100 milliseconds or 150 milliseconds. So it's very, very quick. It's the moment you walk in the room. It's not even when you first come over to someone. They usually make their first impression of you across the room.
Yeah, that's really cool. And today, that's perfect because I want to focus on improving our interactions as men with beautiful women that we're attracted to from a scientific standpoint. So why don't we start from the very beginning, before we even have spoken to this girl and we have walked in the room? And I guess that's your body language. So how can guys seem more attractive and more confident just by shifting their body language?
So the first thing is to make sure that you are knowing that your first impression happens when you walk through the door. It's not when you finally get to their table or when you finally walk up to them at the bar. It happens when they first see you. And so what you want to do is I talk about making a grand entrance, which is that you walk in with a purpose in mind and you make sure that your body follows suit. So there's a couple cues that we take into account when we're trying to judge someone's nonverbal. And the very first thing is how much space they take up. There's a direct correlation between how much space someone takes up in their physical environment and how much of an alpha they are. So alpha behavior or leader is something that, even if we don't like to admit it, it's kind of I don't know. Some people think it's a really exciting side of human behavior. Other people say it's sort of the dirty side of human behavior. But we all of us, when we meet someone, decide if they're an alpha or not. That is just something that we do. And so the more space you take up with your body, so people who walk into a room with their shoulders back, their arms loose and swinging with long purposeful strides, that cues to everyone around them that they are claiming their space. They are taking their space. And the reason for that is because people who do this have higher levels of testosterone. Both men and women have testosterone in their bloodstream. And when you take up more physical space, you release or pump testosterone into your bloodstream. So that's why it's, from an evolutionary perspective, we pick up on those cues, is because we know how much of a leader someone is based on their nonverbal and their physiology.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I actually have that listed as one of my bonuses in our 10 ways, or actually 20 ways to boost your testosterone ebook at MenProvement.com, is shifting your body language, because I learned about that a while ago. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's cool because most people think that body language is just for the benefit of others. That when you walk into a room or walk on a date or walk up to a woman, you're trying to show her that you're worth knowing, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to do. And that is true. But the other side of it is that you're also making yourself feel like you're worth knowing. So Amy Cuddy at Harvard Business School found that when you are instructed to stand in powerful body language, so stand with your arms nice and wide, you put your hands on your hips, sort of the Superman pose. When you stand this way, you actually begin to pump more testosterone. So not only does it signal to others you are a leader, but you also produce the exact hormone you need to signal to yourself that you are a leader, and then you perform better. Testosterone helps you think more clearly. It helps you speak more clearly. Whenever I do podcasts like this one, I always stand up and make sure that my feet are firmly planted. I usually have my arms on the desk or arms at my hips. And the reason for that is because it produces the hormone that I need to be able to answer your questions, hopefully, well.
Yeah, it's a good tip, because I find that I do also perform better on the podcast when I'm not hunched over on my desk and I'm standing, because I know the opposite is that you produce cortisol, which clouds your thinking, and it has the opposite effect. So that's a great tip, even for guys who are waiting for an interview, or they're about to do a speech on stage, or they're waiting for their date when they're at the bar, just to assume powerful body language for the first 5 minutes before she gets there, and you're just going to feel that much better. So that's yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to mention that most people, when I tell them that, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Or I already do that. I don't have bad posture. However, what do you usually do when you're waiting for a date? What do you usually do when you're waiting to walk into a meeting? Usually you're checking your phone. Checking your phone is the weakest, least alpha body language you could possibly stand in. And the reason for that is because when you are checking your phone, you're engaging in blocking behavior. So you're putting your phone in front of your body. You have your arms tightly pinned to your sides, so you're taking up less physical space. Your shoulders roll in, your chin and your forehead aim down. That is the body language of defeat. Universally across cultures, when an athlete loses a race, when someone feels defeated or it feels like a loser, that's what they do. They go into that standing fetal position. So every single time you check your phone, you are actually producing cortisol. You're losing testosterone. Studies have shown that when you stand like that, you lose testosterone in your bloodstream and you gain cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So not only are you signaling to someone who maybe walks in like the bar, so you're checking your phone at the table or checking your phone waiting for them, your first impression is done before you even look up. They've spotted you, they've seen you, you've already sent them the cues already just from checking your phone, and you have then cortisol pumping through your bloodstream.
Man,
so
yeah, that's incredible. And everyone does this when they're waiting for someone or they don't know people. They're not even looking at anything. They're just looking at their screen, pretending to text because they're just kind of like, huddling inwards because they don't have anyone to talk to or anything. And it's killing them. That's amazing.
Exactly. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you can't check your phone before a date comes. So what I would recommend is if looking around, taking stock of the restaurant, people watching, that is, much more confident, much easier to be in broader nonverbal. But if you do want to check your phone or you're checking your phone in a public place, the best way to do it is, instead of having it in front of your body, is to pivot it out. So hold it slightly out from your body and slightly up. So you're almost holding it a little bit. So your chin and forehead are aimed a little bit higher. Your shoulders aren't rolled in and your arms aren't pinned to your chest. You're not crossing in front of your body. So just holding it out slightly and up slightly can help a lot. And it still looks natural. And that's a very slight variation that really helps.
Yeah, definitely. And so let's jump into the actual conversation. Now we're going up to talk to this girl. What's the best way to start a conversation and avoid being that boring guy and kind of make a connection with her and stand out and be someone she remembers?
So there's a couple things you can do, but specifically for men to women, I'm going to give specifically tips for that because it's different for the sexes. Research has found, and this is research that was done by Sandy Pentland, that one thing that women love is feeling like they are being heard, the feeling of being heard. And I know that men are like, yeah, I've been in this situation before where even if men think that when they're listening, all they have to do is look at the woman and listen. However, when a woman is listening, and you can watch two women talk to each other, there's a lot more that women do when they're listening. They nod their head up and down, they tilt their head, they lean in, they go, wow, really interesting, right? Oh, right. Like they do all of those that are called responsive listening techniques. And they also have incredible facial expressiveness. Women are much more facially expressive than men. And men feel usually uncomfortable having facial expressiveness, especially when the other person is talking, when they're not sharing a story. The problem is that when a woman is speaking to a man, especially if it's about something that makes her a little uncomfortable or she feels like she's sharing, or if she doesn't get that facial feedback, if she doesn't get that nonverbal feedback, she feels like either you don't care, you're not listening, or she doesn't feel heard. So the nonverbal side of listening is even more important than the verbal of what you say after she's done talking, right? So she might be telling you all about her childhood in Kansas. And you are listening. You are fully present with her. You are listening and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to ask her this follow-up question and I'm going to ask her to go deeper. And right, you think about the questions you want to respond to her. She's decided if you really care and if you're really listening while she's speaking. It has nothing to do with what you actually say when she's done speaking. No matter how great your question is, it's what you do while she's speaking. So while she's speaking, there's 3 things that you want to focus on. One is mirroring or matching her facial expressiveness. So if she's showing you all these facial expressions, she has an eyebrow raise and she's smiling and she's, opening up her eyes nice and wide. When she does that, you can also raise your eyebrows, smile with her, literally match her facial expressions with her. That's a way of having a shared experience. It is the best way of not only showing you're listening, but actually feeling as she feels. I think it's the basis of empathy. So trying to match her facial expressiveness. And you don't have to do this like to a T. It's a subtle kind of matching. So if she's smiling, you want to smile and enjoy that story with her. If she raises her eyebrows, the eyebrow raise is a universal cue for curiosity or engagement. Mm-hmm. So if she raises her eyebrows, what she wants from you is for you to show, yeah, I'm with you. So you raising your eyebrows and going, oh, wow, interesting. Or even just raising your eyebrows and not saying a word, that shows your engagement. And I would practice this not on a date the first time. So don't practice this with a woman that you're really attracted to, because that is terrifying, right? That is just, it's really intimidating. So practice this with one of your male friends. Practice this with a friend you're really comfortable with. Don't even say to them that you are trying it. Just practice it casually. A, see what their response is. B, see how comfortable you are doing it. You'll notice you'll get more and more comfortable as you do it. And C, see if they respond to you differently. Do they talk longer? Do they say, wow, it's been so great talking to you, or it's been so great catching up, so good seeing you, right? Are there any differences that they pick up on? Because most people, especially women, will feel like, wow, he's really like with me today. I really feel like he's on the same page as me. So facial expressiveness. You can also try the head tilt. So the head tilt is the universal cue for I'm listening. Like if you are trying to hear something, you usually will tilt your head to the side and try to hear it. That's because we're exposing our ear to try to get those sound waves into our ear from a scientific perspective. So what we do when we're listening to someone is we will also head tilt when we're really trying to understand them. And so if you've been told that you are standoffish or cold, or if women have told you in the past that they just don't feel like you're listening or they don't feel like you care, even when you are, you might want to try the head tilt to warm you up. It will warm you up to show that you're listening, especially if the facial expressiveness feels odd to you. If you can't get used to it, you can try the head tilt as a way to show engagement. And the last one would be the triple nod. So the triple nod is a very, very slow nod. So it's at the pace of, if you want to nod with me, 1, 2, 3. That is the pace of a slow triple nod. Research has found that the triple nod, when you do that, other people speak 3 to 4 times longer. So it is the equivalent of a nonverbal ... It's kind of like a nonverbal command telling someone to please keep speaking. That's what you're doing when you do the triple nod. So if you're with someone and they're talking about a topic that is particularly interesting to you, whether that's business or romance, but let's say that, you are really interested in traveling and you want a woman who is an adventurer, she loves to travel, she's an explorer, and she begins to talk about a vacation that she took last year. Oh, and this is like something you really want to hear more about. You can engage in the 1, 2, 3 triple nod as a way to tell her, yeah, I'm into this, keep going, tell me more, tell me more. So that's another way that you can do that. You want to be very careful, however, my kind of corollaries to this rule are, one, that you don't do it fast. So the fast triple nod, and you can try this, the 1, 2, 3, is an impatience nod. It's an impatient nod. So when you nod fast like that, you're actually telling her, speed up. Are you done yet? Can I tell you my story yet? So be careful not to do the fast triple nod. And you also want to be careful to not bobblehead. So it's purposeful triple nodding. It's not continuous triple nodding. Women have more of a problem with that than men. You'll notice that women will stand and talk to someone or sit and talk to someone and just continuously be bobbleheading their head nodding. It's because it's an appeasement body language. And so women who are taught to be collaborative will sometimes do it too much. So you can try that for yourself.
No, those are awesome tips, and I'm getting the feel of it right now, trying to kind of doing it when you're talking, doing my own little triple nod here. But
I like it.
are there any scientific like studies or anything done on the best opening lines for a man, to a woman?
Actually, on my website, I have my favorite 13 first date questions and the reasons why they're really good. But for pickup lines, there was an exhaustive study of pickup lines that tried all different kinds of pickup lines in all different environments. And there was one pickup line that had more success than all the other pickup lines. Are you ready for what it was?
I'm ready. I am.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Just that, because remember that what you say is not really that important for your first impression. So if you're walking up to a woman, you're very confident, and you walk up to her and you say, hello, nice to meet you, or hello, how are you? that is a very neutral, positive greeting. And you're having her focus more than on your nonverbal, which is incredibly powerful. However, if you were to walk up to her and say, you know, are your legs tired? Because I've been running in my mind all day long, or whatever. Like one of those pickup lines, it could potentially make her laugh, but it also could potentially turn her off. And so then your nonverbal becomes your first impression was the rule, but the weird pickup line becomes an exception to the rule, right? Or like it doesn't change the rule, but it makes her go, oh, this guy had such promise and I don't know anymore. So you're better off doing a line that's very confident, focusing on your nonverbal, going right up to her and making sure that you're giving her that strong first impression without distracting her with words that could potentially turn her off. That was just my opinion, and I could be biased. That's the way that I like to be approached.
Yeah, no, it's a great tip, and it just reminds me of how everyone always says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And a lot of the guys who I talk to on this podcast about meeting women, and myself with my experience doing so, it seems the better you get, the more simple things become, and the more you simplify things, because it's easier and you are more confident enough to just go up to a girl and say hello and look her in the eyes. You know, you don't have to say anything fancy. So
exactly. It's
really cool that you said that. And what are do you have any, you mentioned some questions, like your favorite questions to ask. Do you have any tips? Because I know like this was a big problem of mine. I'm also an introvert like yourself, and I used to be much more awkward than I can be now if I find myself not going out for a while. But I used to get stuck in these interview style conversations after I first approached a girl with, oh, so what do you do? Oh, you're from New York. Oh, how long you been there? And it's just an awfully boring conversation. And it seems like everyone knows those conversations suck, but everyone has them over and over and over. So do you have any advice against that?
Yeah. So the way that I like to frame questions and questioning and the conversation is that you are not asking for answers, you're asking for stories. So, and there's multiple reasons for this, and I explain the science on our website, which is, and it's a little bit long, so I won't bore you with the science here, but basically what that does is it triggers the brain's pleasure centers, which is exactly what you want to do when you're with a person. It makes you more memorable, and it makes their experience more enjoyable. And that when you're asking questions, you're not just trying to get the answers. The questions that we want you to ask, my favorite first date questions, are always questions that are trying to get stories. That are trying to get them into telling you a story. And the reason for that is because A, it makes them feel good, but B, you're going to get less canned responses, right? So like, where are you from is a canned response answer. It doesn't produce any pleasure in their brain. They've said it so many times it's boring, and it produces a very stilted back and forth. Where are you from? Where are you from? Cool. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's like, it doesn't go very far. Whereas if you ask someone, what was your favorite part about growing up where you did? Or do you think that where you grew up shaped you? Like those kinds of questions, A, they're going to tell you, well, I grew up in Michigan and I don't know if it shaped me. And it gets them thinking about something that they've not thought about before. And then it produces a conversation where they're telling you stories. They're telling you stories about their family or their childhood. So all of our questions, whether they're work related, whether they're personal passion related, whether they're where did you grow up kind of related, they're all trying to produce a story. And that I think is the basis of when you're thinking about questions, when you're thinking even about follow-up questions. Like let's say that your date is talking or someone you're talking to in a bar is speaking. Is there a question that you can ask that's not going to elicit an answer, that's not a one-word answer or even an explanation, but is more of a story? It's going to get her to tap into that area of her brain. That's really what you want to go for. That's what you want to keep in the front of your mind.
Yeah, some tips that I used for this, because I've had the pleasure of learning your information many, many times before this for myself, so I know what to ask you here. But from practicing it in person, I find that starting with something like, oh, so what's your story? It gets you into her talking about, oh, she moved here from Buffalo, and then you say, you know, oh, well, what was your favorite thing about growing up in Buffalo or something like that, and aim more towards questions that are about why and not what, and really get her to think. That's what has the most powerful impact for me. So thank you for sharing that. And I've got just a few more things when it comes to the conversation. And the first is eye contact. So I know eye contact is important, and a good tip from Jordan Harbinger was to recognize her eye color or their eye color, and then you're good. But how much eye contact do you recommend, and how much do you think is too much?
Yeah, I love that Jordan talks about eye contact, and I agree with him completely that you want to be able to get her eye color, because that is eye contact and deep gazing are slightly different, right? If you notice someone's eye color, you're engaging in deep gazing. You're looking into them as opposed to at them. So I love that tip by Jordan, and that is a great place to start. Science has shown that in the average conversation, we hold eye contact between 60 and 70% of the time. So it is not 100% eye contact. And this is where I think a lot of men go wrong, is they've read in, a body language article online that you should make good eye contact, that good body language is about a good handshake, good posture, and good eye contact. And so they'll meet a woman and be like boring into her eyes. And this has happened to me so many times I can't even count how many times this has happened to me. The problem is when you engage in over 70% eye contact, it's very invasive. It comes across as creepy. So 60 to 70% is what you want to notice. It's noticing their eye color, but then also engaging in your natural gaze patterns. So whenever we're processing information, we tend to look up or around. That is okay. Don't suppress your natural urge to process, because that is we know that is how we interact. So when you ignore that, when you suppress like your desire to maybe look up and to the left when you're trying to remember something, that A comes across as inauthentic because you're suppressing a natural desire or nonverbal cue. And B, you're most likely engaging in over 70% eye contact, which is very, very invasive.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. I know looking at the lips when you're trying to get intimate with a girl, is that actually good advice? Because I know everyone says that.
It's good advice. It's accurate advice. When you're engaging in a social or intimate relationship, your gaze naturally drops down to her mouth, but not only her mouth, also her chin and her neck. And the reason for that is because when we're trying to assess someone as a potential mate, we're trying to take in their hormone levels. And we do this even if we actually want to produce offspring or not. It's totally subconscious. So our brain is looking at a couple of things on a woman specifically. It's looking at the shape and fullness of her lips. That tells you how much estrogen she has. It's looking at the softness and roundness of her chin and the softness of her neck and the length of her neck. That's also going to tell you how much estrogen she has, if she'd be good to carry children. You're looking at the skin on her neck and the health of her hair to see if she takes care of herself. The shininess of a woman's hair and the length of it will often tell you if she's takes care of herself, if she's well nourished. And also you're looking to see the spots that release pheromones, because pheromones dictate if someone would possibly be a good match for us. For example, women always, when they are told to smell anonymous men's shirts, they always rate, without realizing it, when their brother or father's shirt is in the mix, they always rate that one as the least attractive. And that is because pheromonally, I don't even know if that's a word, pheromonally, they are not a good match for offspring. And so you're also looking lower to try to get that whiff of, would this person be biologically a good fit for me? So our eye gaze naturally drops to the eye and mouth, mouth and neck. And I think this is okay, but if you're doing it purposefully, if you're doing it in a manipulative way, it also comes across as inauthentic, especially if it's over 70% of the time, because that doesn't happen in natural conversations, even with someone you're attracted to. So it can feel very, very invasive.
Interesting. And one more question, if you have time.
Sure.
So let's say you're doing all this and you think you're doing a good job. What are some signals that she might send you that she is attracted to you, that she's doing subconsciously, but you can now become consciously aware of? And what are some signals that she might send you if she's totally disinterested and wants you to go away?
So the signals that she's not interested, that's the signals you want to know about?
I want to know about the ones where she is interested and a couple when she's not interested.
Oh goodness, that's a lot.
Let's just do the interested ones though, because I hope that's what people are going to see.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's focus on the positive. So when a woman's attracted to a man, she's trying to call attention to two things: her fertility and her availability. That's what she's trying to broadcast to you. In fact, women who show availability cues typically are approached more often than women who are more attractive. So when they studied signals in bars, the women who showed more nonverbal availability cues were always approached more often by a man than the women who were rated as 9s or 10s in the bar. And that is because it's a subconscious cue, and women know this. Subconsciously, they know this. So availability and fertility cues are a couple of things. And I have all of them on my website. You could always go check them out. But the ones that you're going to see most often are when she calls attention to her lips, her hair, and her neck or suprasternal notch. Suprasternal notch is the little divot in between a woman's collarbones. That is because when a woman touches those areas, it calls your attention to them. So for all the reasons I listed in the last answer, calls attention to her estrogen levels. And also every time she touches it, it releases pheromones that you could possibly smell. So anytime she's touching those 3 areas, that's a cue to you that she's trying to signal her fertility. Availability is proximity. So how often is she leaning into your space? How often is she reaching out and touching your forearm? And the direction of her toes and torso. So you can always usually tell office crushes by where someone's toes are pointing. Almost always. Even if they're across the room from you. It's because we want to move towards the people we are most attracted to. So when a woman is pointing her toes at you, even if it's across the bar, it's because subconsciously she wants to move towards you, and she's also trying to signal to you, I'm available to you. I'm open to you, and I want you to approach, or I want you to talk to me. So those are sort of the areas that I would focus on for if she's into you or not.
That is that last one's really cool, and I'm really interested in seeing that in action the next time I go out. Yeah, this is incredible stuff, and I'm imagining your conversations at this point in your life are just like, I'm picturing Neo from the Matrix with like the numbers falling down from the sky and like analyzing everything naturally. Like I would totally love to get to that point, but it's an incredible field, and I know you have so much information. So what's the best place for people to go and learn more from you?
scienceofpeople.com. So we have everything that's on there. I put up almost all of our content for free with videos, and we have practice videos. We do these things called What Do You See, where we post like blind dates and we ask you to try to guess the nonverbal cues that you're seeing in the dates. So we also have a lot of games and stuff because we feel like if you're going to learn body language, it should be fun and it should be practical. So everything's on there, and that's where you can find us. And I was thrilled to do the episode with you.
Well, there you have it, guys. Vanessa Van Edwards, decoding the female attraction triggers and what you need to do scientifically to attract women. And I love this because I'm trying to formulate my own sector of meeting women, because there's so many guys out there that teach pickup. And then there's awesome guys like John Cooper who teach about being completely natural and giving fully to attract women. And then there's people like Vanessa who teach the science behind it. And I kind of want to formulate the scientific part step by step so you can understand exactly what to do on a physiological sense and practice it so much that you do it automatically, and then develop the mindsets that John Cooper talks about and not need the girl and be fulfilled from within and have girls gravitate towards you, and then know all the tricks that the pickup artists use when it comes to touching and seducing and things like this. And I think that this is what will make the ultimate man and the ultimate ladies man. And that's what I'm aiming to become myself. And you guys are here with me the entire time. You're going to learn along the way, because everything that I learn, you're going to learn. And we're going to become this guy together. So I'm really excited for it. If you're not a subscriber to this podcast, subscribe today. Download the app on your phone and search MenProvement and subscribe so you can listen in the gym. I've got some awesome episodes coming up about the science of sleep, about all sorts of stuff, improving your IQ, and I've got another guy coming on to talk solely about body language so we can get even deeper into the science of body language. It's going to be some great stuff, and I'm going to make you the best man that you can be while making myself the best man that I can be. So take care, have a great week, and go crush it.